Hey guys, Todd Anderson here alongside Brian Brown doing a deck tech on a sweet new iteration of the Abzan Hangerback deck that's been running rampant through Standard recently.
Are we doing a deck tech or are we Brown doing a deck tech?
We're Brown doing a deck tech.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
All right, always with the puns there, BBD. So if you've seen this deck over the last few weeks, you know kind of how it works. We have Fleecemane Lions, Anafinza the Foremost, Hangerback Walker, and usually a ton of removal spells.
Yeah.
Now, these decks are infinitely customizable with things like Wingmate Rock. You can play more removal. You could even play Thoughtseize. Like, there's all these different spells that hit on different parts of the curve that have very different impacts on the game depending on how either late or you want to take the game or how early you want to interact with your opponent.
Yep.
This version is banking on the fact that almost every single removal spell in the format is either red-based that does damage or is Dromoka's command. Now, that may seem strange to say because all the Abzan decks do play Abzan Charm, and some of them even play like 1 or 2 Heroes Downfalls. You know, and then there's Abzan Control, which plays like 4 Heroes Downfalls and 4 Abzan Charms. In that regard, some of our choices may not seem exactly exciting. But against the other 90% of the field, I think that this 2-card combination up top here is going to just take over the game by itself. Managorger Hydra and Gather Courage are both these. They're weird cards, right? Like, people don't really know how to play against them because they don't see them very much. Managorger Hydra can just get out of control so fast. It has natural trample, so it gets over things like Hangerback Walker. It can even trample over and kill an Elspeth as long as it starts off less than the 4/4 and doesn't die to the tick down. And overall, Managorger Hydra has just been the card that the red decks can't beat. The Jeskai decks, the mono red decks, the green red dragon decks, once it gets to around a 4/4 or 5/5, nothing kills it anymore. Nothing can really block it anymore.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely actually really like Managorger a lot. This was a card that someone was playing in Abzan aggro at the Pro Tour, and since then it's kind of always been on my mind. I've seen it on Magic Online a few times. It's not something I've really played a lot with myself, but I do think the card is actually really powerful, and I think the synergy with Gather Courage is actually really good as well. Yeah,
so the idea behind Gather Courage is all of your creatures are green except for Hangerback Walker and the tick down on Sorin. We've done a little bit of testing with a few other creatures. Like, there was a green-white version of this deck where I was playing Force Seeker of the Way, and you know that card helped out a lot against like the red decks. We were playing a version that had Dim Protector, you know, and even though the morph side isn't green to convoke the Gather Courage, sometimes you just want to play it on 2 to have a 2-drop so that you know make sure you stay on curve. And I found that those creatures just felt a little bit worse than Hangerback Walker in the deck in general, just because of how naturally powerful this card is against aggressive decks. But also, you know, it's a safety valve against wrath effects. It's you know, can do a lot of cool, tricky things with Abzan Charm and Dromoka's Command putting counters on it.
Yep.
And late in the game, sometimes it's just like the 6-mana 3/3 that when it dies, you just get 3 more guys, and it's just really hard to attrition out. But Gather Courage has just been this blowout usually turn 2 or turn 3 play where you play your first drop of Fleecemane Lion, Anafinza, or Managorger Hydra. Your opponent tries to Dromoka's Command fight it, and you get to Gather Courage it, make it into a 5/5, and it almost always kills their creature and leaves your Managorger Hydra in play. Now, when you untap, it goes back to a 3/3, but you can play like Abzan Charms to make it into a 6/6 immediately. You can play more Gather Courages to pump it and trample over things, putting more counters on it the whole time. Every time your opponent plays anything, it gets bigger. And it's, I don't know, Gather Courage is, I have yet to lose a game where I cast Gather Courage. That's all I know. Like, sometimes it gets stuck in my hand against like blue-black or whatever, but I mean, so far it's just been a giant beating, especially against like mono-red.
So a couple of things that I want to ask about the deck. The first one is, why not Siege Rhino? So, like, Siege Rhino is basically, you were saying at the start that you like, or like the format is full of Dromoka's Commands and red removal, and like Siege Rhino seems really good against both of those kinds of cards.
So I do agree the Siege Rhino is really good against Dromoka's Command because he's just bigger than most of the guys, and red removal because he's bigger than most of the red removal, and he recoups some of the life loss from like pain lands, attacks, and things like that. This deck is just hinging on being as efficient and lean as possible. I don't really like having Sorin in the deck as a 4-drop, I like having it as my turn 6 play.
Right.
If I don't have the board stabilized, I don't want to just play my Soren, tick up, attack for 5, and gain 5 life. That's not really what I'm in the business for. I want to make sure that Soren is gaining me like 10 plus. They can't kill it on the swing back. Or if I don't have anything in play and they don't have anything in play, I just like play it and make a vampire, and it usually ends up being a 2-for-1 outside of Draconic Roar or whatever. If I ever get to a point in a game where I can't cast the spell that I draw, those are the games that end up losing. And I found that playing with Siege Rhino as a 4-drop as opposed to like Mana Gorger as a 3-drop or even like Hangerback and Offensa, I felt like the games where I was not able to cast every spell in my hand by the end of the game, those were the games I was losing. And Siege Rhino being a 4-drop is one of the things that kind of pushes the deck on that spectrum of maybe you're not able to cast this spell in time. Or you just don't draw enough lands to cast it in general.
Okay. I mean, I think that's reasonable. Like, I don't think that... So, like, I don't think that Siege Rhino is that great. Like, I've always considered it one of the worst creatures in Abzan aggro, but I also feel like... I mean, I know that there are definitely no sacred cows, but I feel like there are sacred rhinos, so...
I mean, if there's ever was a sacred cow, it's definitely Siege Rhino, man.
I don't know. I just feel like the impact it has on the game is not always immediately, like, it's not always easy to see because a lot of times you play it and it immediately dies, or things like that. But I just think back of like all these games I play in these tournaments where I'm playing against Abzan Control and I have like Lion and the Anafenza, and I'm just play 2 removal spells and they just have like 2 rhinos, and even though I killed both their rhinos, I'm like looking at the life pad and it's like, I'm at 10 and they're at 18.
Yeah.
Like, how is this possible? I curved 2-drop into a 3-drop, and I'm beating them down every single turn. And like, just that difference there, like, lets them play like this more aggressive game against me, or makes me have to play like so much differently. I don't know. I feel like it could be right, definitely, to not have rhinos, but I would be very skeptical of not playing them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Rhino is just the card that we're playing Mana Gorger Hydra in replacement of.
Yeah.
And, if you want to just play the normal Abzan Hangerback Walker deck, that's certainly fine. I'm not going to fault you for it. I think that deck is really good right now still. And, but this version, I think, it just puts a huge emphasis on just the metagame decision that Abzan control is not going to be huge.
Right.
Blue-black control is not going to be huge. There's going to be a ton of mono-red, Jeskai, and Dromoka's commands. And if that's the case, then I think that this 2-card combination is just significantly better than just having access to Rhino. But I will say that, I've played about 30 matches with the deck so far, and I haven't missed Siege Rhino at all. And there haven't been very many situations where I was like, man, a Siege Rhino right here would be great. And just based on that, just gut feeling is why I'm still not playing it. But you certainly could try to fit it into the deck. I've actually had the same comment from almost every person I've shown the deck to or talked to about the deck is, why not Siege Rhino? And I just always bring up the fact that, like, it's basically Mana Gorger Hydra or Siege Rhino, and they're pretty similar in that they're just this big guy that you kind of want to try to play at some point in the curve. And like, obviously in situations where you're really low on life, Siege Rhino is better, but Siege Rhino is not great at just turning the corner and ending the game on the spot, whereas every time I've cast Hydra into Gather Courage to protect it from a spell, if I ever get to untap, the game is over. Like, I get to Dromoka's command, put 2 counters on it, kill a guy. I get to just like play a creature, kill a creature, attack for 5, and it's just been phenomenally good. I can't even really stress it. Anyway, last thing, Mana Base, or before we get to the sideboard, Mana Base is very, very similar to the one from your Abzan Hanger deck. I've tried a few different versions. Right now, we actually have just about the same number of white sources as black sources, which I don't really like because the deck is just a tad bit more white heavy than black heavy, thanks to Fleece Mane and Dromoka's command versus just the ultimate prices. And all the other multicolor cards are all 3 colors, or they both have black and white in them. But yeah, we want to make sure we have a huge stress on green. We have about 19 or 20 of those, I think. The Mana Confluence and the 6 Pain lands are a little annoying sometimes, but I think they're necessary to make sure you can curve out. And the Pain lands aren't so bad when you have stuff like Hangerback Walker that can actually utilize the colorless mana. Mana Gorger Hydra can utilize the colorless mana. Even, the activated abilities on Warden too. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you might want to try Temple of Plenties, actually.
I've had Temple of Plenty in the deck, and every time I draw it alongside Windswept Heath and a non-black source.
Okay.
And I just wanted all of my come into play tap lands to function with Windswept Heath.
That makes sense.
I know that's been a pretty huge emphasis on the Rakshasa, Death Dealer, Abzan aggro decks of the past.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a pretty similar case for this deck as well. You always want your turn 1 tap land to be able to fetch off of Windswept Heath into the right land that you're missing, right? Like if you have this one, you get white. If you have this one, you get green. And that lets you cast all your 2-drops and usually curve out into being able to cast Anaphins on 3. So, all right, guys. Well, that's the sideboard. Let's go and take a look at, that's the main deck. Let's go and take a look at the sideboard and see what we got going on.
That's a 60-card sideboard.
Yeah. All right, so here in the sideboard, let's start with a card that I actually forgot to talk about in the main deck, and this is the second copy of God's Willing. Now, the original iteration of the deck, like I said, was green-white, and in that version I actually had 4 God's Willing, because I had 4 Seeker of the Way, it was great with Mana Gorger Hydra, and I actually had Dim Protector too, so I was able to morph Dim Protector on turn 4 with God's Willing protection a lot. It's kind of a holdover from that version of the deck. I've really liked having it every now and then to be able to protect Mana Gorger Hydra from Abzan Charm and Hero's Downfall. But I think that you can kind of overload the Abzan Charms and Hero's Downfalls with your early other creatures, such as Warden of the First Tree, Fleece Mainline, Anafinza, and the like. And usually the Mana Gorger Hydra is going to be the last creature you play, and hopefully by then they've run out of removal spells. And if they haven't, then that usually means that you're both in top deck mode anyway, and even if you had a God's Willing, maybe it wouldn't have even protected it in the first place.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't have time to keep mana open for it.
Yeah. We have 3 copies of a Ration Cleric and an Ultimate Price that can come in against more aggressive decks. The price is really good against Stormbreath Dragon in general, which green-white based decks have a problem with fighting. We have 2 more in the main deck as a complement in that matchup. 2 copies of Tragic Arrogance, which are phenomenal in a number of strategies, or against a number of strategies, like Constellations. You get to make sure their Courser Crewfix is the only enchantment they keep and the only creature they keep, which is kind of awesome. It's pretty good against the Blue-Red Thopter deck, too, if you can make it to turn 5, where you just let them keep their Ensoul Artifact as their enchantment, and then you choose a different artifact as the artifact they keep.
Yeah, you can keep your Ornithopter and the Ensoul that's on your Darksteel Citadel.
Yeah.
And that's your creature, your artifact. There's your enchantment. Oh, it's not attached to anything.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah, and since it's sacrifice and not destroy, it actually beats Darksteel Citadel too, which is kind of awesome.
Well, it is. It says non-land, so it actually doesn't.
Well, I don't know.
Tilt.
Okay. All right, I'm wrong. Maybe it's not that good in that matchup. Anyway, Unravel the Ether is pretty good against Darksteel Citadel. I've tried out Revoke Existence, and I think I just like Unravel better because we're a little bit more green based. The instant speed is nice.
Yeah.
I have found that there are turns where Unravel is a little worse than Revoke because you want to go green creature into Revoke Existence, and sometimes you only have access to 1 green mana, and you're not able to go Unravel into green creatures. So there is an argument to play Revoke. I still like the instant speed a little bit better. They're very similar cards, though. 2 Thought Seizes to come in against control decks. 1 Ajani for any hugely attrition-based matchups such as Abzan Control. Even the other Abzan aggro decks, they will get slower after game 1. They're going to bring in their own Elspeth. They're going to bring in their own Ajani more than likely. It's going to be this huge battle of resources, and you're just going to have to hope that you draw a little bit better than them and come out on top with your own Planeswalkers. 2 Glares, which hit almost every creature in the Abzan aggro deck, including Anafinza, Fleece Mainline, Siege Rhino, and even Elspeth and Ajani and Sorin. Just hits everything. It's a phenomenal sideboard card right now. I think there was a time where it was not as good, but I think now it's just transitioned completely in the other direction. Yeah,
it's actually getting pretty good again. I played Glare in London. I was really happy with it. It does not hit Mana Gorger Hydra, though.
That's true. We got it. We got him on lock. And then 2 copies of Elspeth because it's just the stone cold best card in any sort of green-white based mirror.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a 8-for-1 if it doesn't die the first turn. It can come in and kill a Tasigur and a Siege Rhino and still leave an Elspeth in play.
Yeah, it just wins so many games. I just had a lot of games against Abzan Control at the GP in London where even though like they're the Elspeth deck, sometimes you can Elspeth them, and a lot of times they're stuck like trying to like play catch up to your early creatures, and like you get to play Elspeth when you're ahead, which is really hard to lose when you do that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that is the sideboard and the deck tech for the Mana Gorger Hydra Abzan deck that I'm playing today. Brian is going to be playing Green Red Dragons.
Yeah, I'm playing Martin's list from Grand Prix London that he top-aided. Yeah.
Yeah, Martin's great. Deck's great.
Man.
See how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll be right back for the Versus video.